What is this? What is this on the screen? I don't understand. Is someone reading my mind and writing the right things? Some subconscious message that is supposed to tell me something about this picture? I don't know. That's a good question. That is a good question. I think that's a perfect intro to this stream, guys. Welcome everyone. It's just me being really creepy. I'm glad to see everyone joining us today. The potato stream. That's right. The potato stream begins. Hey, someone would think that potato stuff would be like, why would you like allow people to call you or talk about it all the time? And my answer is really simple. I embrace it. I just embrace it. It's actually Alex Neonakis that came up with that nickname. I want to kind of obviously get away from that at some point, sometime, but I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. Someone said Illuminati is I don't know. Is Illuminati a thing? I don't know. We can find it here somewhere in the picture. I'm sure there's a lot of triangles in this picture. Anyways, jokes aside, let's get going. Obviously, we have a lot of different streams going on all the time here over Twitch, but we're we want to have those ongoing projects and keep going with those. I want to get that picture finished eventually, but we're going on a slow pace. We're learning as we go and creating some interesting things. Guys, bear in mind, by the way, I'm today just alone, very lonely on this stream. So, if you have any questions, try to save them towards the end so that we potato with Illuminati sign instead of A. That's perfect. That is perfect, dude. All right, that cracked me up. Actually, you know what? That gave me an idea. Give me a second, guys, because that gave me a right idea. That's right on the money. Let me see if that works. Let me see if that works. Yep. Just has to happen. I mean, you called it. You basically gave me the right idea, sir. And it just has to happen. All right. I'm pretty sure some people will be upset, but we're doing this because it's important, because we want to make sure that everyone is aware what's going on in the world. You don't want to live in a world where there are some mysteries and misconceptions. You want to live in a world where everything is exposed as it's supposed to. You want to be sure that whatever happens, you're not alone. So let's make sure that that's the part of the deal here, ladies and gentlemen. I gotta give you credit, man. This is the best idea ever. I think this is going to be an ongoing theme over here. Just gonna make sure that it fits nicely to the picture. There we go. So that we all know it's not even hidden anymore. It's all in the right spot. It's all in the right place. All right, let's leave it like this. It's actually fun. I think Illuminati instead of anarchy. It's a better idea. I might church it up a little later. Smaller. Oh, cool. Yeah. You know what? Let's do this. So it's like hidden. You don't know. It's like, where's A? Why A is missing? Hold on. Let's zoom in. There's something hidden. What? What? All right. All right, this is enough, guys, because we can keep it going like this throughout the whole stream, but we're never gonna get anything anything done. So, uh, but this is fun. I actually like it. One of the reasons to be live, because you can heavily influence the way this picture is progressing. But either way, last time I was talking about organizing layers, because as you can see, we have quite a bunch of them, and they are in the weird order. I exactly don't know when I'm looking for something. Like, for instance, I was looking for that potato sign, and I just couldn't find the layer, and that's problematic, especially when you work for a client and you get a lot of things to do, and you kind of don't want to. You don't really want to waste time on things like searching the right layers and stuff like that. So there's several things you can do in order to make things work the right way. I'm gonna maybe start with the naming convention, because that's something that is quite important in work. Naming convention is basically how you name your file. So right now the file is named just randomly environment. The way I name my files is I look at the date. I look at what day we have today, and we're gonna do it American style. It's November. It's not November. It's September 29th. So let me make the font bigger for just a second. Bear with me, guys. This is gonna be pretty short explanation, but start with the year. Whoa. Let's make it white or red. Let's make it red so it's visible. 1609 29 underscore, and then the second part of the naming convention would be what type of image that is. So whether it's environment, a character, prop, illustration, all that kind of stuff, or keyframe. So for instance, if it was keyframe, I would call it key with all capital letters. If it's environment, that would be ENV, or you can go ahead even and go INT for interior or EXT for exterior. Let's call it just ENV for now. Or actually, you know what? Let's go really deep, interior. Then the name of it, abandoned mall. And then my initials, so that whoever's reviewing the file know which artist made it, and then version. And that's how I would basically name all my files. And then whenever you do a new version, then obviously change the date and the number. I never go in and say final or anything like that, because you think it's final, and then it's like final 01. Oh, I need to change something, final 02. Then it's final 12 because you've done so many changes, and then it's underscore final 12 final. It's just like confusing. Just leave the numbers. Latest number is the best one. So cool. I'll just use that name for the name of the file. So when we're gonna save it, I'm just gonna save it in the right way. All right, so we got that out of the way. There are different naming conventions depending on what projects you're working on. There might be changing. There might be little differences, but the one I'm using here works pretty well. So I never had any issues with that. And then next thing I do is I gonna maybe pull it up right here, right in the middle, so I don't have to reach my hand all the way to the other place and make it uncomfortable for my hand. I'm joking. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look through the references I have or through the layers, and I'm gonna seek for any hidden references like photos and whatnot. So whenever I have a photo, paste it in, I want to move it all the way up. So we're just basically cleaning up the structure right now. Let's see if there's anything else. I think that's it. There's some layers that obviously are unfinished and whatnot, but we're gonna leave them there for now. Let's see. There's the screenshot layer from the render with some little overpaint. I'm gonna put it on the very top, so I have a reference from where the image started versus where I am right now. So that's also sort of like more for an information. Let's say if you're working with designer and you can show them how much changes you're doing along the way, so they know, okay, this is my block mesh, this is where the level design is, and this is what you're adding. So they're like, oh. Or even if you're talking with art director and they want to know like how many changes you've done to the environment that we already have in the game, then you can show them, all right, this is what I got, this is where I am, and then they'll say, so now we have to build those trees, like make those trees assets and the bottles and the rubble, all the trash that is out there. We have to build those storefronts and stuff like that. It gives them an idea what exactly has to be created and completed in order to make this thing work. So it's always a good idea to have that thing going. So I usually leave it at the top and call it, I don't know, you could call it base. And what I would do is I would just lock it. You actually have to lock it when when the layer is enabled. So you cannot move it from the top. Or actually you can, but you cannot like accidentally move the image or whatsoever or delete it. So it's locked. It's gonna stay here. You can actually make it so it's not movable either, I think. There's certain things you can do here. I think this just locks the layer, locks all the things. So like you cannot move, you cannot paint on top of it, you cannot add layer masks, and let's see what the tooltip says. And you cannot nest it to like some art boards, whatever. I never used that, so I don't know. Then we have those bunch of references right here. So I'm just gonna group them. The shortcut is Control G, super easy, and I'll just call that group references. There we go, hide it. So that already gives me two nice layers that basically allows me to have things organized. And whenever I'll go in and have some new references coming in, like that Illuminati stuff, let's see, where was that? Like this, right? Then I'll just throw it into references. And because my reference folder is invisible, I basically toggled it so it's not visible. Then whenever you're throwing in ref that is visible, it automatically will go invisible too. So I like to do that. It's a very simple way to hide things and organize things. So if you find a new another photo somewhere here, like, oh shit, I missed that one, you just grab it all the way up, and boom, it's there. Then another thing would be trying to determine how many layers I want to merge together, which layer is going to be merging, and how I'm going to group them. And I usually group by elements, background, foreground, and all that stuff. So it's super, super easy, straightforward. Just sip some drink. I'm gonna grab a water. Give me a second. Need to grab that water, otherwise I'm losing my voice. All right, so what I do by doing that, I examine my picture, and look through what elements are definitely going to need to be separated, have their own separate layers or whatnot, and how much of a structure of those elements I want to keep. If there's many layers, um, then if there's many layers overlaying on, like, let's say like I have right here that booth, and what layers are connected to that booth. You know, we have color correction, and there's something behind it, so that obviously I would want to have it behind the booth, and there's something in front of it, but I'm pretty sure there's other layers that are attached to, like the potato and the Illuminati sign. Again, I need to find that stuff. So I move it all the way down here, making sure that it's with the booth. So now I'm gonna group it, and just you know, I usually cycle through layers like that. Just basically if I press, hold, and scroll all the way up, I can disable layers and see what is affecting which area. So I can see that I have this adjustment mask right here that is affecting not only the booth but also the ground. So I'm gonna have to split it in some way so that I can have a separate mask for the ground and separate mask for the booth, or I could keep it together like it is and then have it as almost like a separate lighting pass. And but then whatever I'm gonna paint on top of it, let's say if there is an object right here, whatever I'm gonna paint on top of it just to fix the lighting would have to be in that group. So I need to be consistent with that stuff. So I'm gonna ask if I am how many coffees I already had today. Just one bulletproof coffee. Just one. It was good. It was pretty tasty. It was pretty good. It was pretty punchy too. And then another question was there: Do you use any custom build Photoshop script? I don't actually. I use pretty much the base of what it is there, and there are some extensions that I either purchased or have, and they are, where are the extensions actually? I never remember where they are. Somewhere there, somewhere in those menus over here. So I have few extensions. I don't know what that Adobe color teams are. I don't know. Obviously Pixel Squid. I don't know what recent files is. Never used it. And then seamless texture generator. That's actually pretty cool. If you're I'm actually gonna show you how that works. This is actually pretty good for building seamless textures. So let's say you have your texture. What you have to do is you want to make sure that when you're cropping it, you're having a square cropping. Let's say it's like this. And I want to make sure that I don't have any white weird stuff. I want to make sure it's all texture. And then all you have to do is tile. And it's automatically going to tile the texture for you. And it becomes seamless. So if you start repeating that, it's just gonna be nice, seamless, repetitive texture that you can use in 3D. The only thing you would have to do is obviously edit, because the way it works is, you see, it's like moving, offsetting the image, and then taking those squares and then using a mask. So that's like the easy way. But then all you have to do is just like clean up those gradient areas to make them look more cohesive. And that's super easy, super fast, fast thing. I like that plugin. But yeah, just to answer your question. So I use that, but only for texturing. It's an extension for Photoshop. It's not a separate program. It's like a plugin that you can. I think it costs like $10 or $20. I can't remember. It's super useful though. It saves a lot of time, especially when you want to use use it for, stuff like you know, having seamless textures in your thing in your 3D scene. So that's the good stuff. The good stuff. Highly recommended. I use it a lot. And then there was one more question there. Which forums you look at, or sorry, do you frequent any art forums? I don't. I just don't have time for it anymore. Forums used to be a thing for me for the longest while, but not anymore. Just literally don't have time. It's too many things that out there. Social media reaches out to everyone. Everyone is on Facebook. A lot of people are on Twitter. A lot of people are on Instagram too. It's easier to reach out that way. I use Facebook as my primary place to communicate because pretty much everyone is there, and that's where most of the information comes out from my end. And then I try to reshare it all other places, but there's so many spots you can share your work, and you have your art station, you have your DeviantArt, and then there's like freaking I don't know, hundreds of different subforums and stuff like that. It's just you can get lost and lose a lot of time just digging in there. It's just like doesn't really compute for me. All right, let's get back to what we're doing here. So, all right, so I look at things like the background first. All right, so I have my first layer, obviously the background layer right here. And then I have another layer which I use for like painting in some stuff. Then there's another layer for like vegetation. So one thing I want to start maybe using for better organizing and seeing through what's in here is color coding stuff. So for instance, if I have anything that is related to vegetation, I'm just gonna right click on that little eye icon, little Illuminati eye icon. Actually, you know what? I think there's an Illuminati sign somewhere here. I wouldn't be surprised. Let's go and make it green. That reminds me of something. Let's see if I can find it. Give me a second. This is important. Right here. And right here. Coincidence? I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm getting really, really scared right now. All right, let's keep going. And then I have this paint layer right here. So I'm also looking at whether I can simplify and merge things. So like this layer is just basically filling out the blanks. There's like white spaces here, and I'm using this layer just to paint in, so there's no white space there anymore. I can grab it all the way down and merge it with the background layer. Like I don't need that on a separate layer. So let's see what this layer does. So sometimes you're gonna have a layer that you don't know what it does. Like you click it and what the fuck? What the fuck? So what I do is I hold control and click, and then control and clicking usually gonna highlight selection. So I don't see any, and I'm gonna maybe do this control click and control T, and it says it's empty. So that means that there's nothing in this layer, so I can basically delete it. Then we have some rubble over here. I'm gonna move it all the way down, and I could possibly merge it with that initial overpaint layer, because it's just all the way in the background. You can't really see it. It's just a couple of pixels here hidden behind the bushes. So I can leave it at that. And when we added this storefront, I gotta actually merge it with that overpaint layer too. So because like I don't really want to I don't really need to have it on a separate layer. It's already color collected and oh, there's delete empty layer script. That's interesting. That's interesting. I might look into that. But yeah, I already did color correction on that one in the last stream, and there's no like additional corrections that I need to do right now. If I really would have to, then I can do it through the selections. That's gonna be easier. But merging those layers allows me to have a little better structure, so that helps. So we have plans here, then we have the booth. Obviously, the background, like the ceiling, has still elements of the original render, so it's gonna have parts of the booth there too. So that's gonna stay there. That's all right. And then there's a lot of mess over here that we need to go through. So first thing first, I look through the hidden layers and see if they can stay or should be deleted or maybe edited or maybe merged and whatnot. So I go from down to up. There's this layer right here. And then I'm just looking at what I've created here and why. And did I just accidentally hidden that layer and forgot about that? Because that happens too. And it seems so because I already did like a little bit of, masking. So I definitely wanted to keep that here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to think of what is being hidden under that layer. And obviously those little bottles here and whatnot. So because I still haven't cleaned up everything just yet, I want to go through all the textures and see where this has to go. And it probably has to go all the way down here. There we go. So that's basically doing it for me. And then there's two overpaints going on here that I don't need anymore. So those brush strokes are basically covering the texture that we already have here. I don't need that, so I can delete that. And there we go. We're getting it more cleaner and cleaner. Then I go here. There's this layer over here, which is going to be related to the escalator. So I'm going to move it down here. I can see the escalator. I'm going to actually rename that layer. My English. And then I could actually merge it for now because it's just third layer, and I'm probably going to use some photo texture to put on top of that and get it even better and cooler and more awesome. And then I have a whole bunch of other layers, but let's go from the bottom to the tops. Let's call this one a booth. There we go. Then I have a vegetation mixed up with some ground stuff. So what I want to do is probably want to get this thing on a separate layer. And this is going to be just vegetation. And I'm going to make it green. And then let's see what else. And you can see it's not touching the edge. So I just gonna stretch it out a little bit like this. So we don't have to spend unnecessary time over painting here and trying to match the texture and whatnot. We can just stretch it. Nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit. There's another plants layer over here. I'm gonna make it green. And see, like once that happens, then I can start moving things around a little bit and see if that works. So for instance, if I move it down here, there's a overpaint on top of it, so I'm gonna remove that. And it's all for sake of transparency for me, so I can see what's in the background and group things together. So when I have vegetation, I know the vegetation is more or less on the same space in terms of the distance from the camera and in terms of what is in front of it or behind it. So I want to have it as clean as possible. So there's another ground layer over here, and let's see if that I can move that under the booth. Yeah, I can. See, there's no difference in the image. So I can move it and actually merge it with the initial overpaint layer. So this layer is going to be more stacked, but again, a lot of that stuff is just background, and I consider it as a background, and anything we add on top of it will be foreground and can be in a different place. Now I have this sort of cutout of a texture that I used somewhere before. I'm gonna actually put it back to put it all the way here to the references for now, because it is in essence a reference for me, even though it's not a full picture. But I'm not using it for now. So I also had perspective layer here that is empty. No, it's not empty. It's just disabled layers. I want to make sure that the layers in the groups are enabled, and then I can just disable the group itself to hide it, and I can move it all the way up here under the base. So anytime I need to pull up my reference for what the perspective was for that piece, I'm gonna have it here handy. And there was this layer here, adjustment for like black and white, and I can put it all the way up over here, and I'm gonna actually group it, and I'm gonna call it dsat for now. So anytime I would like, let's say I want to check the value structure, I just click it, and I know what the value structure of the image is. It helps tremendously for especially when you have a really complicated scene. You go in, you check that on and off, and it just helps you to look through the structure of your image and make it much easier if you it's like the balance of the image is going in the wrong direction. Then you can fix it by adding elements or removing light and stuff like that by seeing how much contrast is where. So, all right, and we keep going. Just gonna collapse those layers. So you see, it's getting more and more organized, slowly but surely. So we have an escalator. Then we have this weird stuff on top of it. You can see there's a lot of like weird shit on top of it. There's this layer of dirt that is very similar to this layer of dirt. I'm gonna just merge it down for now. Then there's a lighting layer here for whatever reason. And then there's this on top of the escalator. So let's clean it up for now. All right, so I'm gonna take the ground stuff out of this layer and move it under, or actually this should be probably in front of or under. Let's see. So what I'm gonna start to think about is what is in front of escalator and what is behind. And some of the elements of that layer are behind, like this little overpaint here, a little brush stroke. I'm gonna remove it and take it all the way down here because it actually should belong to that layer instead. And now it is. So then I have this vegetation layer over here. And now here's the tricky part. I did like a little overpaint on top of the rubble that collapsed here. So I want to cut it out and place it in the right layer right here. This actually should be under it. So I can merge those two, and then I can move this layer behind the escalator. So now the escalator is on the right order to this layer, and this layer is purely vegetation, so I'm gonna make it green. And let's see, there's another vegetation layer here that I can merge down with this one. There we go. And then there is this layer, which probably should go all the way down here. And then there must be something else here, because as you see, look at that area over there. And it's like if I move that layer down here, I get this white stuff over here. So I have to figure out where is that coming from. Why it's there? I want to know. All right, there is a booth layer that has some of the stuff here. So let's figure it out. Let's see, which one's that? Which one's that? This one. Okay. So here we go. I just want to delete that. I don't need that there. Boom. And then we have this and this. We can merge those together. Then we have this. This should be in front of it. This could actually go all the way down here. Then we have this. This is also vegetation. Make it green. Boom. Boom. Actually, I can merge those two. And yeah. And there we go. We only have one layer now. I don't need to have it on different layers. I can have it all on one. And if, let's say our director comes over and says, man, I hope you have those layers separated. And I say no. And then Morgan Freeman says,
it was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
I would not be upset, actually, because I could just, go in with my lasso tool and and cut it out and then say, hey, but I actually have it on separate layers, so all good. As long as there isn't some stuff that is clearly overlapping, like let's say if I had that layer separated and it would be overlapping like this, and then you merge it, then Morgan Freeman would say again,
it was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
And then he would probably punch you in the face. But if it's like separated like this, then it doesn't really matter. Like you can merge it because you can go in always with the lasso tool and cut it out and make it separate layer. So that's easy. All right, let's go. There's this one. I'm gonna have to figure out what to do with that one. Now, this is probably gonna go in front of this lighting layer here, because this is probably gonna be part of the foreground stuff. Dude, that's a great idea. I actually gonna start watching and recording all the movies, TV shows, and everything, and just find a word, find a word from different bits. When I talk, I'm just gonna press buttons instead of talking. That would be fun. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going, guys. All right, so there was a little bit of overpaint here that I want to remove and put it back here to the escalator. And there's this glowing stuff here. I want to move it all the way up. Like there's a little gradient layer for glowing. And I wasn't sure, so let's see actually. It might have been behind the vegetation or in front. Let's see if it makes a big difference. Actually, I think in front works better too. One disclaimer: anytime I'm adding like gradients, it's usually for reference. I usually then remove it or rework it later once I know everything is in the right order and in the right place. So that's that. Then all right, what's that? So that's the rubble that is on top of the escalator. And I'm gonna start grouping that. So we have a group here. Then we have this layer, and you can see this layer combines of the trash that is right here and the stuff that collapsed on the escalator. I want to separate those two and make sure that stuff that it's supposed to be with the escalator is with the escalator. Now, this is a little overpaint on top of this stuff. And as you can see, there's like different definition under that layer. So as I'm looking at it, I'm not sure if the overpaint I've done is correct or it's better or worse. So I'm going to keep it on separate layer for now. And there's a little bit of error right here that I can delete. So it's not adding like weird cuts and artifacts to that layer. And we can go further. So there's like a little dirt over here. And then there's this with dirt on top of it. I actually can merge it together, all of it. There's a little staining that goes to the booth itself, like little cut corners. But as you can see, I did those cut corners on top of that lighting layer. And basically, because what I found is like I have that lighting, and then based off that, I started like doing a little chipping and whatnot. So what I need to do is, there's two ways. So one, I could put it in the lighting layer right here, or in the lighting group, and then belongs purely to the lighting. But let's say I really like the way it's chipping away and whatnot, and I want to keep it regardless whether I want to keep the lighting itself. So I'm gonna put it back to the booth, and then just use levels to just make it darker and closer to what it's supposed to be. Something like that. So I can now keep it over here. This has to have its own, very own color. I don't want to make it green because it can be confusing with vegetation. So it's going to be gray. It's just like, what is this gray? What is this gray color? Let's actually zoom in. I'm actually curious what that layer is. Can you guys tell me? You guys see this? I have no control over what's happening. All right. You guys gonna get tired of it. All right, let's keep going. We're almost done. There's a lot of shit to clean up. Let's see. So there's this, and there's this ground layer. I'm actually gonna merge those two, but I have to think like this maybe should be on top because it has more definition. Now this layer has a little bit of masking, and then there's this layer. So I'm gonna merge those two instead. And then there's this layer. I'm gonna merge it too. And there's this chipping layer. I'm gonna have to move it all the way down to the booth. Let's see, it should be here. I'm gonna make it slightly darker on, but only in the areas where the light is hitting, because the other areas are not affected by the lighting layer. So I don't want to make changes to the whole layer. Again, it's just a small detail. So this is fine. This area just has to be slightly darker, like this. All right, this works. And I can start merging those little overpaints here too. Cool. All right, then there's this layer. I could totally merge that down here too. And then there's potatoes. Any suggestions what we should do with the potatoes? I mean, we have to obviously color correct them because they're not fine at all. One tip, by the way, you see that little outline, like a white outline that happened here? For whatever reason, there's a simple way to fix it. So I control click my layer, go to select, modify, contract, just 1 pixel, and then select inverse and delete. And there we go. We just fixed the potato. I'm gonna do the same for the other ones too. It's really important. They're part of the community here. They're part of the picture. Have to be done the right way. All right, let's hide potato layer for now. We're gonna deal with it later. All right, so we have then this shadow that belongs to, where are my dinos? Did I remove them? Yeah, they're here. God damn it. So many hidden stuff. Dude. DD Game Boy, don't start it. Please don't be like Ash with his WoW thing. Don't be that, because I'm getting easily lured in to those things. So I'm gonna lose my dinosaurs for now. Oh, the hanging titties of a dinosaur. Those has to stay too. So let's put them in the right folder, so they are not separated. Then there is this shadow that actually belongs to the dinosaur layer too. So because it's a shadow under this guy's foot or claws or whatever you're gonna call it. All right, and then there is this layer, big layer, which has a lot of like adjustments going on. It's one big adjustment folder. I just need to call it the right way. Call it adjustments, and I'm gonna put it all the way up there. My adjustment layer is supposed to be on the very top of everything that I do. One thing I don't want to do is do any kind of adjustment layers and then paint on top of them, because that's gonna just ruin the whole picture. Let's say your art directors comes in, and let's say you have your adjustment layer here, but then you start painting on top of this stuff right here, right? So you did like a little painting like this, and then just doing a little overpaints here too, and maybe more dirt right here and right here. And then your art director comes over and says like, this is too green. I want to have it more blue. So you go in and say like, oh, okay, all right, let's do that. Let's put some blues over here. And you can see like, oh, I like that. Because your art director is a shitty colorblind person. No offense to, but just generally someone who has absolutely no idea how colors work, and he thinks that the color works that way. I'm thinking more in a state of being a shitty person. And then he says like, oh, this is the perfect colors. Those are the perfect colors, man. I was like, fuck that guy. But it has to stay that way. But then you can see your paint layers are totally different color too. So now like, all right, in order to fix that, I have to duplicate that adjustment layer and then apply it on the clipping mask to pretty much everything else that I've painted on top of it. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to deal with that. So easiest is to have your adjustment layers all the way up there on top, right below that base layer. That's how I structure my things. My layers, especially for really big projects when I work for a client. The reason is just like, you know, I want to make sure that the whole picture works without adjustment layers in the first place, that the contrast and saturations and whatnot are more or less there. I'm having the right hues and right values. You know, maybe something's going to be too contrasty and whatnot. I can fix that later. But this is just to enhance an image, not completely change it. And you have to think it that way when you're painting. When you're doing your painting and when you're doing your work, any kind of adjustments you're going to add, they're supposed to be there for adjusting, not completely changing. So, okay. So we have this, and this has, and then there's this. What is this layer? All right, so this is a little bit of a sketch that we did in talking about cover objects. I can delete that because it's not part of the image anymore. And then we have those little references. There's actually a plant that's cut out that I left there, and it's actually duplicated. I think I duplicated it so I can merge it together. So there's more transparency for the leaves, and that's basically what we're gonna do. And this can go and hide itself to the reference folder because we don't need that. And group 3, we're gonna call it dinos. We might use them at the end. We'll see. And what is this? Okay, this is a vegetation layer that I just don't know what to do with. Probably gonna use it somewhere, but for now, let's just keep it like this. And obviously, I have to change the hue structure because hue is a little bit way too different to anything else here. You obviously want to have a little variation of hues in your vegetation depending on what kind of plants those are. But when they are the same plants as others you have already in the scene and the hue is different, that might be confusing. So I want to make it a little more in the realm of what we already have here, basically speaking. I think the yellows need to be killed a little bit and overall. And then, yep, that works better. And then we could possibly place it anywhere here and it's gonna fit. It's gonna work correctly. It's not gonna be anything too confusing. Obviously, we will have to decide where we want to put it. So, I should add chromatic aberration, you say? I would say if I were making this painting to be near future, then probably yes. But I pretty much abandoned using chromatic aberration like a couple of years ago now. Just found it to be a gimmick. a gimmick that works really well to make things look like they're shot with a really shitty lens, which a lot of photographers try to avoid at all cost. I think when I'm thinking about those things, so when you look at an image, that's an interesting topic. Actually, I wanted to riff on for a little bit here. When you look at an image, whether it's a picture or film or keyframe or something like that, especially if it's the actual real thing, it's great to look at it and see all the camera imperfections. Like there's certain quality to films shot on actual film versus film shot on the digital cameras, because film itself has its own imperfections, right? It's an imperfection of material and how it's translated to the slides, and then how they are scanned to digital format, because at the end of the day they have to be in the digital format if you want to watch them on your computer screen. So let's say Tarantino movies, they have a very specific quality to how they look. Even if the movie is shot in 4K, it's still her. Actually, I don't think he shot in 4K. I can't remember. I know he did the Panavision, which is super super wide, but I'm not exactly sure what was the resolution or the type of cameras he's using. But it's a 70, I believe it's a 70 millimeter film, and there's a certain imperfection quality that comes with the film, but it has nothing to do with chromatic aberration, which is basically how hues are shifting around the corners because the lens quality is not good enough. Chromatic aberration appears when you have a really shitty lens. That's basically it. And all the photographers that are out there would try their best to actually remove chromatic aberration from their photos, because it just ruins the quality of it. Same goes with vignetting. Like, you want to have the least amount of vignetting. Best lenses are those that are not only just sharp, but also remove quite a significant amount of chromatic aberration, just because they work really well from corner to corner. Now, obviously, depending on how wide you're going to open your lens, the wider the opening of the lens usually means more chromatic aberration and vignetting. That's basically because the lenses work that way. But generally speaking, you wanna avoid that. So, I think everyone's jumped on the ship of back in the days, at least, to use chromatic aberration, because it does two things. One, it makes a fake imperfections of an image, especially combined with noise and grain, which makes it makes it hide an imperfection of your painting, or the digital feel of the painting behind the noise, where it's just like deleting some of the details that is out there and make it more cohesive and consistent. And what chromatic aberration does is the same thing. It kind of makes it feel like it's more consistent, but that not necessarily mean that it is the case. So, and I've noticed that, maybe if you use it on a very slight, only on the edges, it might work. Unless you're like, let's say you're doing a keyframe, which is seen through the lens of like a security cam, like a fisheye security cam, then like adding chromatic aberration works too. I know you're joking, by the way, but it's an interesting subject. I just started to riff about it because I find it really interesting. It's not like I'm bashing on anyone who's using it. I was using it too. It's just I find why I understand why everyone's was or is still using. It's very similar to the subject of, let's say, photo bashing. Back in the days, photo bashing used to be a thing called cheating for whatever reason, until everyone realized that even Craig Mullins photo bashes. And then it was like, oh, I guess when Craig Mullins does it, then I can do it too. And it's kind of weird purism related to it, I don't know. Do whatever you want. Do whatever the fuck you want, man. with your images. I just stopped using it myself because, or abusing it. I might find instances, like very small instances here and there, maybe 1 in 100 pictures, that I'll add a slight aberration, maybe just to some layers, not all, but some. And then it's worth a while. But otherwise, I started to keep avoiding it personally. I don't feel like it makes my images look better at all. All right. So I'm jumping back to painting. I think we've organized our layers pretty well. Now you could argue and go into some color coding and whatnot. I actually make those 2 layers right here a group of itself and call it dirt and shit. This is a shit on the ground. Not a literal shit though. Just shit. Just random shit. And then I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this up here. Or actually no, I cannot have it there. All right, so this is gonna be kept as a very specific layer, or actually should call it lighting, because it's a lighting group. And I'm just gonna keep it like this. And anytime I'm doing something different where I'm just, doing like overlays and maybe lighting stuff where you have, let's say, overlays like right here, I could actually, I merge it, it's actually losing the quality for whatever reason. But I can change the color code for this to be blue, for instance. So anytime I'm doing any other layers that are not on the normal layer mode, so if we go, for instance, to this layer right here, and you look at it, it's a normal layer mode. There's a bunch of different layer modes here. Let's say for overlays, I would use blue. For lighting, or maybe like, let's say if I would have fire embers, for which I would use the lighten screen or any of those modes right here, then I would make it red or orange. So I know those are like visual effects, right? So you want to color code things based on what they are and what kind of function they preserve. And then I think those 2 layers can be merged too. So it's nice and easy. And this probably should go. So the booth itself is going to go in front of the vegetation for now, I believe. Although you could argue for, let's say if I just cut it out, I'm just thinking as I'm thinking aloud, by the way. Like this one right here, this could be a separate layer actually. And it should stay in front of the booth just to be organized, because if, for instance, for whatever reason you want to move the booth in, you want to have that vegetation that is in front of it, perspective-wise, to be in front of it in the image itself too. So, all right, so there's a few more questions here. I think we're getting close to getting this stream done. Yeah, we are. All right, we managed to organize everything. Again, as I'm talking and having fun and basically fooling around with my soundboard, obviously. The time is flying really fast. Like I would probably spend 5-10 minutes organizing this myself if I wasn't here, asking looking through the questions and answering them and going around the bush and talking about something different instead of working. But yeah, I think there was more questions here. Is there any demand anymore for non-photoreal concept art in film productions? Yes. There are films that are, let's put it this way. It all depends what kind of film it is, whether it's a stylized film or not. It all depends on the director and production designer. Some directors love really photorealistic work. Some like less realistic or more concept-y work kind of deal, where it's more related to the actual concept, not the illustrative part. There are directors that like to see pencil drawings because they respond to those really well, whereas they don't like Photoshop file for whatever reason. So it's a matter of a taste of a director. From production point of view, if the film is supposed to be a film with actors and real places, or maybe set designs and stuff like that, which have to be built from real materials, then in that case, photoreal concepts are going to be better because they're going to be more informative for the rest of the team to build upon. But if the film has some weird elements to it where, there's a lot of visual effects happening and you have creatures and maybe there's like a mix mash of I don't know, like different styles in one film, which happened in the past already, then it depends, it really depends. Again, in concept, if the concept is strong but not necessarily super realistic, that's fine. I've just noticed that more directors respond better to really realistic stuff, especially those who are not artists at their soul. There are directors that are more story driven. There are directors that prefer to be more involved with art. Like, it's a matter of who you work with. Generally speaking, I feel that the whole industry is moving towards photoreal, but it's also like trying to find its own identity, that it's not affected by producers, which can ruin, like, studios and producers. Depending on which studio and which producer, it can make or break any IP or any show, right? So you might be having a great expectation for a film that is coming out, and then it just turns out to be shitty because it's written like shitty film, like Batman versus Superman. So you have those films happen. Anyways, let's see. There's more questions here. I'm just gonna go through them on those last minutes before we jump off. My little sister is learning scene painting for the theater. She's not sure if she wants to start digital painting. What's a good way to help her decide? My plan so far is to install her Photoshop and give her a tablet so she can try. And that's the greatest thing you can do. It's, give her Photoshop and the tablet, and there's a lot of material, free material already over the internet. There's a lot of YouTube channels that teach you how to paint with Photoshop on the very basic level. You just have to make sure your little sister has the right expectations when she switches the medium, because it's not going to work like traditional medium. It's going to work totally different. It's going to look like absolute garbage for first hundreds of tries, but that's all. It's the same route as with traditional painting. You're not great traditional painter from the get-go. You have to go through the path of learning and finding your own mistakes. And obviously, if you can find a material that teaches you the right way of doing this, like for instance, Intro to Environment Painting, then you should go that way and really have a lot of hours put into the right practice. And then the result's going to happen. But otherwise, yeah. I mean, the best start is just having Photoshop in the tablet. That's just like simply the best thing you can start with, obviously. Another question was, do you use more Octane instead of V-Ray on professional work these days? Or do you have specific things you solve with Octane or V-Ray? I know it's a personal preference, and they're both good render engines. They're both great render engines, one of the best in the industry, in my opinion. You also have Arnold and other engines. Arnold actually is right now a base rendering engine for Maya, which is crazy as fuck, and in a good way, because Arnold is an excellent rendering engine, but it's pretty much the same, in my opinion, to what V-Ray does. So both have their own differences, but at the end of the day, all the render engines going to be, they're going to deliver more or less the same results. Actually, Grant Warwick, which we already had here on the stream, he's actually going to come back to those streams, and we're going to talk more about shaders, like deeper into shaders. Grant actually shown I think on his one of his courses or on his website. I can't remember where, but it was he did a render of Iron Man. Same render of like it's identical render of the same figure, same lighting. One was V-Ray and one was Octane, and I didn't know which one's which. I couldn't tell. Like I said, oh, I think this one's Octane, and he's like, no, this is actually V-Ray. All right, once you tweak the shaders in the right way and the lighting, it's all gonna look the same. So one thing that V-Ray has that Octane doesn't have yet is line art. You can make like the toon shader and have a line art out of it, which is great. I've used it already on my professional projects. One thing that Octane has that V-Ray doesn't is Octane is more instant in giving you interactive results. So when you have your interactive window open, the kernel, then you can see what you're doing immediately. Whereas V-Ray takes a little more time. And also Octane has this one feature that is the glow, bloom, and glare that is real time. V-Ray still doesn't have it. It's like a post-production thing that happens as soon as you finish rendering, not while you're rendering. So in Octane, you can do it real time, which is great. So I use both. I have licenses for both. I've invested a lot of money to V-Ray in the first place because I use it on many commercial projects already. So yeah, both are great. I'm gonna keep using both because they're great. Let's see. Maciej, do you think that in Poland I have bigger chance to find a job as a concept artist or illustrator? Your biggest chance to find a job as a concept artist or illustrator is having a great portfolio. I would always argue that you should focus on that in the first place. It doesn't matter where you live. These days, it matters more that your work is excellent. Obviously, for studio work, depending on what studio you want to work with, it's easier to be close by. Like, let's say for whatever reason you say, shit, I would really want to work for Blizzard or would really want to work for Naughty Dog. Then, if you're in the LA area, the likelihood of that happening is much, much better than if you're in Poland or anywhere else, because getting someone from outside of the US to US is a long road. So yeah, it all depends whether you want to relocate or not, and all those things. I'm actually having art cafe tomorrow, I believe. Yeah, tomorrow is Friday. Yeah, I have art cafe tomorrow with Alex Neonakis. She's a UI designer and illustrator at Naughty Dog, and she's also gonna be with me on a podcast with a actual lawyer. I can't remember his name because I'm terrible with names, so I need to look it up. Let's see. I remember I posted it on my Facebook, obviously, so I'm gonna find it there in a second. His name is Robert Herrera, and he's an associate with Jackson and Hertogs in San Francisco. So he's an actual immigration lawyer. We're gonna talk about immigration to US, how the whole process looks like, and how hard or easy it is to get visas here and whatnot. So we're gonna go really balls deep into with actual legal, or again, it's an opinion. I think I don't know how you even legally state it, whether it's a legal opinion or whatever the fuck. I guess until you sign a contract, it's not. I don't know. Anyways, but it's gonna be actual lawyer talking stuff, so it's more legit source than me farting into a microphone. And okay, I'm gonna answer that one. We're actually gonna answer two more that I see in the order of how they are asked, and then we're gonna finish on that. So, are you preparing a new course for Learn Squirt, or will it be mostly new teachers? I am working on a new course. I actually worked on something, and then I decided to change it because I figured out that there's a better material that I can deliver, again, for me and for anyone of Learn Squared. As you can tell from the course that we just released yesterday, we're all about the fucking best quality that we can get. We just don't want to make a course just for the sake of making a course and then releasing it and then asking you for money. That's bullshit. We don't want to do that. We want to make the material that we as in me, Ash, and Andrew believe are going to be best for you guys. Like based on the experiences we have learning and teaching, and also seeing where the industry is going, but also knowing what is really exciting and what can really propel your artistry and quality of your work. That's where we are putting our chips in. Because for me, it would be easiest thing in the world to do a rehash of whatever I already done for Gumroad and just package it in a nicer way and call it a course. But you would ask those questions like how different it is from that Gumroad. Is it worth it or not? And I could sell you bullshit like yeah, you should totally drop those freaking whatever dollars on this because it's super super duper awesome. But that would be a lie. Like I don't give. I think I'm doing financially well from the work I do, that I don't need to scam people to buy stuff that I'm creating. That's bullshit. We don't want to do that here at Learn Squared. We want to know that whenever you say Learn Squared, it's quality and it's a good shit. So that's what we want to always aim for. There's more courses coming in, by the way. A lot of them in works. As Ash and Andrew probably mentioned that on yesterday's stream, which I wasn't attending. I was just there on chat, just spreading rumors. As they probably mentioned, is that we decided to forego the idea of releasing quarterly, and then instead making things as we're done with them. So never again is going to be a situation where the course is ongoing and then let's say apprenticeship or like one of the journeys from the apprentice is missing for extra week or two. That's never going to happen again, because the course is just not going to be released until it's done, until everything is done basically. So whenever you buy it, it's like you're not going to miss a thing. So we're always starving for quality. That's why it took so long. I mean, me and Ash and Andrew we're doing a surveys with you guys. We're listening to what you guys were saying, listening to what were the most concerns from our students, and finding out what exactly we can do, making our school better, and changing the way we release stuff and changing the volume of it. Like for instance, we used to have 8 lessons. That doesn't mean we don't gonna have courses that are 8 lesson long. It's gonna depend on the teacher from now on, whether the teacher can create 8 lessons or wants to create 8 lesson course. But what we found, and that's from personal experiences and your experiences too, is that when you have 4 weeks, 4 lessons instead, you can learn. Maybe it's a smaller chunk that you're learning. However, it's more digestible, and it's not like you have to take 2 months off from work, or you commit for like 2 months of heavy work on your homework and whatnot in order to complete something. It's much more manageable to complete something within 4 weeks, and we've noticed that through looking at like how our students perform with homeworks. Usually around week 4 and 5, that will be a peak, and then there will be a fall off. So last 3 lessons would have significantly less homeworks done, because people are just like I personally I was struggling like fuck to get everything, like my apprenticeship done with Ash. That was just incredibly hard. The last 3 lessons, I was calling Ash every day, calling him an asshole and telling him he should kill himself for creating that course. But it was fun. It was fun being and doing that. But it was difficult as hell. I'm now being personally an apprentice of one of the courses that we're working on, and I just can't wait. It's for me. I'm absolute noob in that stuff, And I'm super excited to actually learn it because it applies directly to what I want to do. I'm not going to say more about that. You'll see soon. But I'm super excited. It's only 4 lessons. And I know I'm going to learn a lot, but it's only 4 lessons. I don't have to take off and decide to like, I have to quit this or that job in order to get it happen, or compromise my work on the new course that I'm working on right now. So a lot of exciting stuff coming up, guys. It's gonna be exciting and interesting end of the year, I would say. And all right, let's get one more question, guys, and then wrap it up. Let's see. What other industries do you think could apply your environment painting to other than games and film? That's interesting. That's an interesting question. Well, what I teach in that course is primarily foundation, and that foundation apply whether you are a beginner or someone who just starts learning, and or you have absolutely nothing to do with art, and you just want to start, like, have a head start and learn something. That's a good point to start. Or if you're a professional and you just want to learn new things or new perspective on how you could approach your work, and maybe refresh a little bit of the foundation, and look it through the lens of, or look it through my own eyes, like what I think works well, and works well because of the experiences I had in the industry so far. Now, if there are any other industries that could benefit from that, it's difficult to say. Obviously, when you're learning foundation, any kind of other art avenue is gonna obviously benefit, because once you know foundation, whatever else you do, you can apply that foundation. Once you have a really good understanding of perspective and deconstruction of elements, then you start to think in 3 dimensions as you create stuff. And let's say if you do motion graphics, or you do graphic design, or I don't know, like, I don't think it would apply to industrial design at all. It will be a difficult sell. But I guess graphics design, it could apply there too, because then you could, like, let's say, like, look at what Ash is doing, for instance, with his Octane renders. He's putting a lot of those graphic designs in 3 dimensions and in perspective, and doing a lot of stuff that is basically applying to the foundation of things. So it could benefit for those areas, but whether it's worth it versus maybe actually learning something that's directly related to graphics design, that's debatable. So if you would ask me, like, hey, I'm graphics designer, should I take your course? I would say no. If you want to, that yes. If you want to expand your knowledge into different spots and see if you can apply that to what you do already, then that's a possibility. But if you ask me if that's going to directly improve your work in graphics design, I would say no. But in film and games, yes. I hope, at least I hope so. Yeah. All right, guys. Fun stream. I appreciate everyone who joined live. As you can see, being here and being on the chat and suggesting things, I'm looking, I'm applying, I'm making sure that, whatever you see, whatever happens, you're always informed. And you know that, we don't hide shit here. We expose shit here. Anyways, jokes aside, that was a fun bit. I actually like the development of the potato sign here that happened in this stream, thanks to you guys. And let's wrap it up here. I'm obviously gonna be streaming next week too, as always, every week, unless I decide to go for vacation that one time, maybe in a couple of years, or maybe when I retire. I work too much. And obviously, Ash is streaming next week too. Just as a reminder, obviously, we released the class yesterday, Michael Wrigley's class. It's fucking dope. Go check it out. It's I'm excited about it. I'm taking other class again right now, being apprentice on the other one. But right after I finish that, I am definitely jumping onto Michael Wrigley's stuff, because when Ash have shown me his work, I was like, what on earth is fucking happening here? It was a similar reaction when I saw Beeple's work for the first time. So for me, it's a super exciting. Whatever the things he's teaching, design for production, it looks amazing, and I can totally see how the things I could learn from it I could apply to concept art and the things I do, because I already had instances in my professional work where knowing what that class does would make the results that I wanted to deliver exponentially better, and probably almost confusing to the director or art director that I'm working with. They'll be like, how the fuck did you do that? I'm pretty sure they would have that reaction. And that's related to concept art. So for me, even though it's not purely concept art thing, again, it's like totally different field almost, but I can totally see it, how it applies to the work I do. And that's one of the beauties of that's one of the things that is really exciting for me and Ash when we started school, is that the fact that we not only teach the things we know, but we also learn from the best and apply this learning to what we do in our personal works, and see how you guys as students can do that as well. Ash is a prime example here. I mean, before I even started the course, the futuristic character design, he was just like, that's 3D, what the fuck? Get out of here. Like, Octane, what the fuck? Get out of here. Like, all of those things that he's using now daily, they were like not there in his arsenal. So I can take a little credit. For what he's doing today. Joking. No, it's all him. All right, guys, let's wrap it up. Thanks for showing up. Ash is streaming next week, Wednesday. I'm streaming Thursday. We're going to probably have Curtis back on the stream very soon again. And we also going to have Grant Warwick, and Cornelius is coming back too. So we're going to keep inviting those awesome guests. I'm pretty sure Ron and Dade going to join us from the Pixel Squid. Going to join us to the stream soon as well. So there's a lot of shit coming up. It's just all that needs to happen is me and Ash having a little more time. And we could probably throw in an extra stream a week. Get something more going on, guys. It'll be fun. But anyways, take care, guys. I'll see you next week, and you enjoy the rest of the week and the weekend. Bye-bye.